Happy Thursday, everybody. Day post Mandalorian episode Spies. And man, so much has occurred in this last episode. The news right out of the gate, Theo will be joining us here shortly. But the good news is we have our close friend, our confidant, our co-pilot, our guy who knows everything going on in the world right now. Mac, how's it going, brother?
Man, I'm good. I'm so happy to be back with you guys again this week to discuss some Mandalorian action.
Some Star Wars stuff, dude. And this is going to be a great year for Star Wars. So, I mean, really catching up, jumping in where we are is, I know that there's always people out there that some enjoy some things more than others, 100%. And I'll never take anybody's gripe away from them. But I can say, for myself, I have enjoyed this season tremendously. I've enjoyed the tie-ins, the clarification, and I've honestly enjoyed what some of other people have complained about. Well, it was boring and it's different. That's just it. It's different, right? It's taking us back though to people that like read the old Star Wars books and enjoyed these other parts of different shows. There's episodes that feel a lot like episodes of Clone Wars where we're kind of getting the bigger story by seeing some of these smaller parts and pieces. I feel like that are going to come into play here later on. I mean, I feel like there's going to be some interesting tie-ins with some of the characters that we've seen in these last episodes. So I'm super pumped for this new show we've got going and you joining the team, man, to really help take us into some Star Wars content. But, as we get started, why don't we actually just, roll credits and let's get going. All right. So this episode, holy crap, dude, titled Spies. Plural. Multiple. So, let's take it. Let's kind of break down the episode. And before we do though, real quick, let's make sure we shout out to our friends. LaCruces, thank you as always. As soon as we put something up, you're always there. Gabe, what's going on, brother? Our super Star Wars fan guy who's been jumping in the DMs with conversation, going to have to join us in here one of these episodes. Blue Lantern, I cannot wait to see you in Las Vegas this week, man. This weekend, I will be looking forward to that. Yes, Filoni answered some great questions, explaining that the title doesn't refer just to Din anymore. I feel the same. I've loved every episode so far, so at least we are in good company with our fellow, Star Wars brother, right?
For sure. Yeah. I love that these guys have, since the very first episode, this being our third episode, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and these guys have been here every single time. So thank you guys. Yes, obviously, we can only do a show if you guys are willing to tune in and to pay attention, and not only tune in and pay attention, but to participate. Like Absolutely. I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure I speak for Phil as well, that we love to hear what you guys have to say. We love to volley off one another. And ultimately that's kind of why we do this, is we love the community aspect of being able to mingle with you guys. So y'all are the realists. Thank you.
There is nothing more fun than, talking about the things you love with your friends, bro. So 100%. Now this episode was titled Spies, like you said before, plural, right? And it opens up on your favorite character in the new Star Wars universe. Slowly, and unfortunately her name's eluding me all of a sudden.
Elia
Kane. Gosh. I knew in season 2 she was going to be important, just the way they just they would just stop the camera on her and she just happened to, because extras, they always pan fast enough, but as soon as they would stop and just she must be important at some point, and nothing happened with her. But then this season, as soon as she showed up, I'm like, oh, They wanted to make sure we remembered her, and boy, do we remember her. We
Oh yeah.
finally get clarification at the very beginning. She is the mole for Gideon. She's Gideon's mole and Gideon's spy. Yeah. Yeah. So that was nice. And it was cool. It was cool, but it was weird seeing an Imperial probe droid, kind of just navigating through the streets. I'm like, man, where the hell does that thing hide all day? It's
Right.
kind of like I know they wanted to go with something familiar, but I don't think anybody else keeps the probe droids just kind of rolling around Coruscant. But it is.
So the fact that it doesn't really matter what size the droid is to project like a hologram, and it was just like a hologram, live stream, I guess, basically between her and Moff Gideon. If you remember from Star Wars Rebels, the seventh sister had like these miniature probe droids that would like hang out on her shoulder. They could have gone with that, and that would have been kind of like you said, much easier to, disguise or have hidden in the city and like not be something so big and bulky and loud.
Exactly, because this wouldn't be the first introduction. We've seen the Inquisitors in Kenobi. We know that they're out there. We know what's going on, and at the same time, too, I did like the smaller probe droid concept that we got with those characters, as well as, at the same time, too, they could just use a damn mouse droid. There's a lot of there's a lot of different routes that they could have gone through with the droid. But at any rate, I digress. That's not the main thing, because as soon as they get done with that conversation, it pivots back to Gideon, and he's walking through a corridor, and he starts turning around. He's walking through that corridor, and we see all of these tubes, and in those tubes, obviously, we know Gideon is a super fan of the whole cloning, and he is working with trying to find a way to reap the Force out of different super users as far as things go. I'm guessing that's with the straight midichlorian counts. When it comes to, and at the same time too, it could also be for the longevity as well, right? A lot of people haven't necessarily commented on what they were taking from Grogu. Obviously they were taking, lots of samples as far as things go. They did more than likely pull some midichlorians, which Yoda had a high concentration of for his size and age. But I also wonder too, if, since they are such rare creatures and they live so many hundreds and hundreds of years, it is the desire of their next Sith Lord, their next leader, to live for that millennia of rule that you can get. And I'm wondering if that's a part of the cloning technology and splicing an idea that they're running with too at this point.
I honestly never even thought about that, but that's a really, really good point, because I believe in Legends, it was near impossible to clone Force sensitives, or if you could successfully clone Force sensitives, you couldn't clone the Force sensitivity. You could clone the being that was Force sensitive, but you couldn't get the Force sensitivity to always, transfer over. And that's why it took Palpatine so many times in this new canon, I'm guessing, for him to finally get like that new body, or for them to finally get the Snoke, I guess, that, ended up being able to harness the Force. But that's a really good point. I definitely could see him wanting not only the child's blood, potentially, like you said, for the Force sensitivity, but also for the longevity factor. And as Gabe said down there, before we get a chance to see those tubes, or maybe it's right after the tubes, we get to see these awesome, what I'm coining as the Beskar troopers, which you pointed out are actually like the Imperial commandos from Rebels.
Yeah, the Imperial Super Commandos that were under the lead of Gar Saxon back in the day, and I remember, I don't know if a lot of people play it, but there's a Star Wars app where you get to play with the different 5v5, and I remember Gar Saxon's Imperial Super Commandos being able to roll in and call his airstrikes and stuff. It was super fun. But at any rate, yeah, these are their next generation. This is beforehand, and in Rebels too, one of the main things was giving over the Darksaber to obviously Bo-Katan, but also the revelation of the project that Sabine was working on,
Right.
being the super weapon that essentially would fry anything alive, and it was attracted to metal, particularly Beskar armor. And this is the super weapon that the Imperials used to kill all the Mandalorians. And since their armor was not Beskar, it was a different kind of alloy, plastic, whatever it is, synthetic material.
Right.
It never had any effect on them, and it didn't. So you could be out on the field, and this device would activate, and it would essentially cook all of the Mandalorians alive to ash,
Right.
within their armor, and the stormtroopers could just walk through the entire thing. That was that was that was a big pain point in Rebels. That revelation for Sabine and coming out and saying that, and that was a big deal to Bo, obviously, and the Mandalorian people. This was a major reason why they took some serious casualties. But they destroyed the super weapon and the technology that they were going to use to really make it work totally. However, these new generations, since the Empire couldn't keep that weapon, they had to continue to move these super commandos forward of sorts,
Right.
and that's where we get into these Beskar jump jump trooper-esque kind of Mando commando Imperial, Imperial Mando commando. I don't know, man cando. I don't know what kind of word we want to use to explain it.
Good.
But these characters, these people that join this fray that we see on the side, we see them later on, but we see them standing off on the side. Each one of those, it was a lot of parallels to episode 1 for me, where we
Yeah.
have, Darth Maul waiting on the other side of the different levels of the force fields as Moff's walking through, to get to what we see is the Shadow Council, the essentially the Imperial remnant. And that is something that I'm really glad they brought back, because it always seemed a little strange that, okay, these guys just all went away and nothing happened after Palpatine died. That
Right.
doesn't make sense. Fighting the Imperial remnant was a major portion of like the legends and things of that nature. Lots of big characters came from the Imperial remnant that were constant thorns in the side of the rebels, including Thrawn, obviously later on, in those concepts too, that rumbling we were beginning to hear. So the Shadow Council had a couple of big characters in it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you've got Brendel Hux, which was he was referred to as commandant in this, and I'm not sure if he ever got higher than that, but he's the father of General Hux, played by Domhnall Gleeson in the sequel trilogy. And then you've got Captain Pelion, which kind of Moff was talking trash to about, hey, you're like allocating these resources all for yourself, or you're hoarding these resources. You need to better allocate these for me because I'm about to try and like wipe out the rest of the Mandos. He was just talking junk because, Pelion is trying to hold out hope for Thrawn's reemergence. And he's
Yes.
like, my stock in trade is secrets, and I hear them from all corners of the galaxy, yet I've heard nothing of Thrawn's return. So I don't know what you're holding out for. We need to go ahead and find new leadership. And the rest of the Shadow Council kind of entertained that. They were like, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
It was, I don't know. I feel like we know Thrawn is coming. There's nobody in the Star Wars fandom that isn't pumped about Thrawn's arrival, and they may not be happy with the way a season went or a series of films went, but really the main thing that is coming to me in my mind is Thrawn, and we know Filoni is going to get his Heir to the Empire kind of movie, or maybe multiple movies. We know it's a few years away, as many as possibly 6 years away. That means lots more seasons and probably lots more losses. I mean, Thrawn was the threat that Thrawn was, and maybe this is going to culminate in the movie. Hopefully, it does. but Thrawn was the threat that he was because he laid waste. There was lots of losses. This wasn't a series of, finally the win, like it felt like with 3 movies. I feel like this is going to be multiple years of multiple shows showing multiple losses to get to the point of being able to face him in these new shows and movies. And we've got Skeleton Crew coming. We've obviously got Ahsoka, which is going to deal with it utmost directly. But Thrawn is coming, and I feel like Gideon doing that, he's not long for this world. Gideon's not going to be around here a lot longer, and I'm not sure if it's going to be Bo-Katan walking off with his head, because they constantly keep saying to each other, I shouldn't have let you live. I shouldn't have let you live. I'm wondering if this is the whole should have gone for the head, and this is their moment. All right, going for the head. It feels
it's
like
kind of like Thor with Thanos.
Yeah, it feels like Gideon is not long for this world. It is going to be, what's up, Fernbird? It's going to be one of those scenarios where I feel like either the end of the show is going to go 2 ways. Either Gideon gets left behind by Thrawn to the Mandalorians,
Right.
because Thrawn doesn't see them as anything. Like he just kind of like, oh, well, you wanted to rule them so bad. Why don't you stay with your people? When they're maybe on the ropes in some way, shape, or form, or because Thrawn was the person that really, also hated Bo-Katan in the cartoon in Rebels. He comes in and kind of saves the day and then takes out Gideon himself, which I can see more of. Thrawn is a strategist. He knows removing the Mandalorians from the battlefield is a big deal. He's not stupid. And honestly, if he had done the first route that I had mentioned, I probably would have been disappointed. Because it probably wouldn't have looked as smart of a strategist as he should be. But we're glad you caught us live too, bro. But I do feel like I feel like Gideon trying to take control of the Shadow Council and move it forward in this new way of taking the fight directly to the Mandalorians is good. And he was asking for more interceptors. He was looking for more bombers and Praetorian guards.
Oh yeah, that was definitely clearly a sequel trilogy nod.
Yeah, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and I could be, but the Praetorian Guard is really the evolution of the Imperial Guard, correct?
Right.
I mean, am I the Royal Guard? Thank you.
Yeah, you're talking about Emperor Palpatine's specific guard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Praetorian Guard is like 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're continuing to move forward and just be those elite assassins. And I remember there was a book in a video game like Crimson Dawn or something like that, where it was like a one-time Imperial Guard, or whoever it is kind of turns into a good guy, or not Imperial Guard, but obviously Royal Guard. But at any rate, it was a cool story back in the day. But I was interested when I heard Praetorian Guard. Right. And obviously these are things we're going to get a lot of foreshadowing of in the next. So, all right, we're out of the Shadow Council. We're now moving into our next series of scenes.
Well, so I want to make one more comment about
Yeah.
Which is, this is the second thing that we've seen Favreau and Filoni pull out of a specific book. So the second book in the Aftermath trilogy was Life Debt. The first thing that was pulled out of that was season 2, episode 1 with Cobb Vanth, and brought that character into the fold. The first place that the Shadow Council was ever created or touched on was in the Life Debt second book of that trilogy of the Aftermath series. And so, being the fact that it's not only happened once now, but twice, we might need to kind of tune into that book, or look at some Spark Notes, or reread that book, because there might be other little nuggets that they're going to pull out of that book. I don't know why that one's specifically getting so much attention, but it's kind of the whole saying of like, fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. So, me being the tiny little nuggets of wisdom guy and trying to be the Star Wars encyclopedia savant enthusiast, I'm probably going to go back and read that entire book. So it's just fresh on.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like we should. And I haven't gotten to read that. Something I was doing too, and for all of those that are here right now, Mikey, welcome as well. Thank you for making it, brother. I read every single one of the old Del Rey, the Legends, all the fun stuff, version of Star Wars. I had a lot of the Legacy comics. I enjoyed those as well. Yes, very much so, brother. I once Disney acquired Lucasfilm, I stopped reading the books though, right? Because I was just like, I gotta start all over. I'm just gonna kind of wait and see where things go. And it was last night when we were really getting into it, and I was just like, all right, Mac, I got like 100 Audible credits. Time to start listening to some books, because I don't have necessarily the time to read, but I do a lot of multitasking, and I love to listen to Audible books. And I'm looking forward to reading, starting off with some High Republic, I believe.
Absolutely.
A couple of books, but I know I need to start to get into those books to fully understand now what is coming to us in Ahsoka and whatnot as well. So highly recommend the books. And if you guys want to see the list that Max sent me, let me know. We'll drop that in the chat here as well, so that way you guys have the chance to read more of these as well. Have y'all read Jedi Battle Scars?
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to Battle Scars yet. We've got, today's the 13th. The game comes out, Survivor comes out on the 28th. So I've got roughly 15 days to read it. It usually only takes me about 4 to 6 days to kind of get through one of these books on Audible. So I'll definitely be reading that, but that will probably be sometime next week that I'll start that or so. But yeah, definitely plan on reading that before playing part 2 of the Jedi video game series.
Yeah, I do like the books, especially in the Star Wars universe, because I felt like I got so much more information from them. In all honesty,
Absolutely.
back when I was reading the Del Rey stuff, I liked the movies, but the books were something else. In all honesty, they went so much deeper than what the movies could. I'm super pumped for reading these next set. So okay, so now we are back on Navarro, right?
Yes.
And this giant Imperial cruiser, what we know, Mandalorian. I love the big Mando sigil at the bottom, underneath it, as it's coming in. Super dope. I love that so much. I that was something that was from the Del Rey books as well. I remember like some of them, when they got control of Star Destroyers, would paint them red, or like dragons, or things like that. I love the appropriation and essentially the graffitiing of these Imperial gray all over ships.
Right.
It adds a lot of personality.
In a way, that's kind of a cameo to throw in too, because the first person within the actual empire, that uniform committee, I guess, or just administration, the first person who did that was Thrawn, by putting the Chimera, or under his ship, he put like the giant Chimera graffiti art type deal, like you were talking about. So I think that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, wink, wink, nod, nod. We all know he's on the way, but like we're just one step closer to seeing him on screen.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are. And I feel like every single one of these steps is getting us closer, but boy, oh boy, seeing that ship fly over was awesome. And then seeing all the different fangs and all the other ships kind of just coming in, the squadrons on the side, it was a beautiful sight. We land, and of course, Axe Woves, everybody departs and gets down to, beginning to mingle, and Axe takes off his helmet right away, in just almost like a challengey kind of way. Like, it's like, well, guess who's here? We aren't like you. And you can kind of see, Din like, oh, shit, here we go. It was just like, all right, all the Mandalorians are looking at each other, camp to camp, if they want to survive, they'll get along, kind of thing. And of course, right off the bat, and he's standing across from John Favreau's character in the show, Paz. And of course, Paz is having none of it either.
Right.
So, it wasn't until the armorer comes out and she just starts clanging, all of her the hammer, and I believe it was the grip, to start to really kind of get everybody together, to welcome them, say it's going to be a feast. We're going to dine together. Let's do this. Let's start to, build everything out. Right. And I don't know. What were your feelings on this scene?
Dude, I was honestly just super geeked up. I was like, look at all these Mandos. Oh my gosh, it's like 100 plus Mandos in one situation. Like, when have we ever seen that? Ever. I mean, whether it was in Rebels, whenever we got right much Mando content, either of the first 2 seasons of this TV series. I mean, there's been times where there's been a nice handful, 12, 20 Mandos maybe in one situation. But I mean, there was a couple of wide shots where they just backed it up and you were like, holy smokes, between these 2 tribes, there's at least 100 here, if not maybe hundreds. So I was just geeking out. I mean, I was just literally giggling, being like, oh man, is somebody going to start a fight? Like, is this going to be a giant Mando brawl? And then Bo and the armor and Din are going to have to be like, y'all chill out. Like, we got to work together.
I think it was that scene and where we got into So let me go ahead and pull up some of the next comments here real quick. I get carried away. So, sold out of all copies twice in the shop. It's a solid read. Jedi Battle Scars. I don't remember that. How long did it take to paint that? Yeah, we're talking about the ship again there. It's great to see the reappropriation. I felt that it was one tactical error of the season was showing the Republic dismantling the Star Destroyers. I agree, Gabe. I did like that of Legends because everything was reappropriated. I loved how they were after trying to capture the Star Destroyers, trying to bring them in on everything, trying to get everything back together. Paz is amazing, 100%. Can't do without him. Absolute unit. He wants all the smoke all the time. Absolutely. And speaking of guys that want all the smoke all the time, joining us.
Whoa,
never, Mr. Rage Theo. How's it going, brother?
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, doing good.
Not too bad. Not too bad. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good.
We're reflecting on a great episode. At least to us, a great episode. We know we haven't gotten your verdict in on it yet, but there was a lot that happened.
Not gonna lie, I was a little upset at the end.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. No spoilers yet.
We're not there yet. All right.
We're not there yet. We just made it through. We've been kind of recapping. We're talking about our feelings as we get through the parts of the episode. So we've gone through the revelation of Elia Kane being officially, Moff Gideon's mole. We know that Gideon's got the Shadow Council. We've got Paleon. We've got Hux. We've got the official announcement of Project Necromancer. That was mentioned, which was huge too, because we know that was the cloning and I feel like that's also some of the Night Sister action, kind of coming into and coming out to get what we know to be Palpatine eventually back, and maybe giving a Snoke of what we see in the future, getting in all those requests. And then we're back now at the point of we're on Navarro. The Mandalorians are together. They're beginning to mix. They've got some heated conversation. And as Mikey was saying, Paz is an absolute unit. He wants all the smoke all the time. But yes, we were talking about the reappropriation of the Imperial fleet. It didn't make a lot of sense when we saw that, in my opinion, at the beginning of this episode, when we were meeting Eliza for the first time, really, and them dismantling so many of them. Maybe those were ones beyond repair that were, outdated, but I can't say that I was not disappointed to see them try and reappropriate, because I love the way the Rebels reappropriated them by like coloring them up and all the graffiti all over them. That's from the books that I enjoyed. especially some of the different kinds of local warlords and what they did with them. It just made it fun. So yeah, getting that back made a lot of sense. And, next stop, we go into Navarro and we see, IG-11 walking around and walking towards them in our Grand Chancellor's, office, sorts, things of that nature. But it's different. This one has a pilot mode. This one's got a cockpit for running around an organic brain, I guess is the best way to put it, as opposed to, a particular pilot. I don't know if I would call it a pilot per se, but it's, it's got room for somebody to actually tell it what to do. It knows how to protect. It's got its basic motor functions available to it. But the chip that was in there that was always trying to kill Grogu and everyone else has been essentially removed in total. And yeah, now we've got a Grogu Kang.
Is that Krang? Not Kang.
Krang.
Yeah.
This guy said
Kang. Sorry, I'm still thinking Marvel, man. I apologize. That is sacrilegious.
It doesn't have weapons though, right? It's like non-lethal.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
It is, but part of me wonders too, like if go with me here, but I'm wondering if Bo-Katan drops the Darksaber at some point, if it's not really Din that does it, but Grogu picks up the Darksaber and uses IG-88 because he can't. He's too small to hold a full-size lightsaber. And even Luke talked about that in the Boba Fett season 2.5, whatever it is, Mando 2.5, was, like you needed a small lightsaber.
Like, this is a lightsaber.
Right? Yeah. And it was... but it feels like, to me, I'm wondering, I'm just, because, why else would Grogu need a big body? I'm just wondering, right?
Because there's not this damn little capsule.
The capsule moved faster. The capsule moved faster than what IG-12's frame does, right? We saw it, and it was the most hilarious thing.
Though, in the robot.
Yeah, true.
Sure.
But I don't know. He got eaten by a monster in the first episode. Remember when Bo-Katan freed them the first time? that little capsule's pretty tough.
It closes. Yeah.
So who? At any rate, definitely it's going to be able to be a lot more devastating. But I did love the yeses and the nos. I love the no, yes, no, yeah, and then it was annoying, but no. Yes.
Yeah.
He was just like, yeah, but I am here. I am walking. I'm going where I want to. You can't make, because I feel like, Din was always saying where that thing went.
For that. Here.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my gosh. It was just hilarious. Like, yes. I thought that was I think that was the highlight of the episode. I think that was to me, that was like the high, like the fun, because let's be honest, Mandalorian is made for kids, right? Andor was made more for adults. Mandalorian has to appeal to the kid audience. And that definitely brought out the child in me of that. Yes. Yeah. It was just funny. I love that part. What about you guys?
We got to that scene where they're on the ship and the, I forget what they called it, but I guess the unhelmet and the helmet Mandalorians got into a fight. And he broke it up with
we're not there yet. Yeah.
He's like, no.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's that yes or no. I was afraid they're going to try and make him be able to talk. And I was just going to be like, oh, I don't want him to completely talk. He's a toddler.
A big question right there. I like that. Do you want him to have a Yoda voice or something different?
I just want him to talk normal.
I want him to talk. I don't want a Yoda voice. I don't want this is, am I, kind of crap. I don't want that.
I don't need them to explain why Yoda does it, but if you guys have watched Tales of the Jedi, when they show Yaddle, the female version of Yoda's race, she talks normal. So I'm going to assume that Yoda's the weird one and that Yaddle's not the weird one that talks normal. That, like, their species talks normal.
I watched the segment on Everything Always, and from what he was explaining with the Star Wars lore, Yoda is the only one that talks like that.
Yeah.
In his race. He's the only one.
Right.
Well,
and they've never explained why it's
maybe Yoda had a stroke at some point and it's just never coming out the right way. I don't know, but yeah, I don't want him to. Man, please don't, because I would rather that be special to Yoda as well. I really would.
Right.
I don't want. I mean, if we find out that Grogu is actually a clone somehow of Yoda, if that comes as a revelation, I get it. Then obviously the idiosyncrasies little things might come out, like potentially a the same dialect or speech ticks. But in this case, yeah, I hope he doesn't. I wouldn't want that. To me, that's kind of, it would be just, I think it would be too much for me. I like Yoda being individual, and I like whoever this is with this weird name he has needs to stick out in his own way. And I wouldn't want him to have the same speech. That's just me.
Right.
Yeah. But no,
So,
I love that part. I love that part.
To jump in now to kind of something Theo was talking about was, how about the pirate ship Mandos? How about once we get down on the surface of Mandalore and then the boat comes, from a distance, they're using like their helmets and the, heads up display and that to kind of see from a distance that there's other people coming, or there's like inhabitants of Mandalore coming this way. And they don't yet know if they're Mandos or not. But then quickly they realize they are Mandos, and they start to become buddy-buddy with them because they recognize Bo-Katan, and by voice even, much less her armor.
Yeah.
And which was pretty awesome. But then they all kind of get buddy-buddy on the ship and everything. And then, we get to see that awesome scene of Paz and Axe basically playing like Mando chess, I guess. And then, like Paz is like, all right, if you don't want to play by the rules, homie, like, I'm going to pull out my vibro blade and you're going to have to deal with this.
And that was one of the first times we've seen a close-up of a vibro blade in the live action, too, with it actually vibrating. I mean, there's always been explanation. Like, oh, that's a vibro blade. Oh, that's the reason why this can stand up to that. And I mean, for those that don't know, too, I mean, the dark saber was, when originally thought, it was going to be a giant vibro blade, right? It was going to be a vibro blade-like sword. And when Filoni and Lucas were talking about it, when George were talking about it, George said, I don't want something else that can go up against a lightsaber. Whatever this is a lightsaber. A lightsaber is a lightsaber. We don't need another weapon that can all of a sudden be as cool as a lightsaber, because all of a sudden that just kind of nerfs everything. So no, Vibroblade's not going to stand up to it. However, let's think of something cool for the Mandalorians, and the Darksaber was born with Filoni.
So I'm going to be a super fat nerd here before we jump into anything about that.
Fatter
Isn't
than
it
me?
funny? Yeah. Watch this. So before
my beer.
Yeah, exactly. So how is he going to say that when Clone Wars, I'm not exactly sure if Clone Wars came first or Episode 3 came first, but because that's kind of right there within about a year or 6 months of one another. So I'm not sure. And specifically, that's like 2-3 seasons into Clone Wars. So I'm not exactly sure. I want to say that Episode 3 had already come before Clone Wars. But either way, it's funny that Lucas said that himself, was like, I don't want something that can stand up to a lightsaber. But if Episode 3 came before Clone Wars, you had General Grievous's Magna Guards have those shocky sticks that can absolutely combat lightsabers. So it's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
remember
know.
that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question, man. And I mean, they did. I mean, what were they made of? Were they? I don't know, because they've been cut. Because you can cut through the poles as long as Grievous's guards kept it to like those force fields. It felt like they were kind of like those electrified force fields. They would repel, and it felt almost like a magnetism kind of thing. Like it was just like pushing the energy. It was like a repelling and kind of like a magnetic force of sorts. So yeah, I can see that. That's true. But yeah, he definitely. I remember reading the background of the Darksaber and everything else, and that's when
I think the same thing happened in that final fight with Kylo and Ren when they went against the Emperor's
Praetorian Guard.
You remember that scene?
Mm-hmm.
Those things they were wielding went up against lightsabers.
Yeah, they were turning into whips and all kind. I mean, that was some anime shit right there.
Yeah, that was a lightsaber and like pulled them. They didn't break.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it just we're gonna bring you over here. Those things were crazy, and that was cool. But I mean, at the same time, too, what was it? The Royal Guard of sorts had a spear, and I believe
Right.
it was a Beskar spear because that's how they were able to, use that spear to fight anything. If I remember correctly, because it was like a spear axe, right? It kind of
Those
had a
things
little bit
were
of an
so
axe at the end.
badass. They were so badass. They could literally touch you like right up here on the top of your shoulder. Not slice, not like stab hard. They could literally just tap you and your whole arm would fall off.
Those things.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like some crazy powerful weapon.
It's like adamantium.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the Star Wars equivalent in thereof, my friend. So yeah. I think in my mind it was a lot like that, but I thought what was also important too was before we get to Mandalore was the conversation around getting everybody to volunteer, and obviously with that, that revelation, getting everybody together, the first to join is Din, and then we get Axe. Well, not Axe, it's the other, the one that we all hoped was Sabine a year ago, but it wasn't. But I do feel like that is what led to the scene that we have after we find our Mandalorian pirates, and that is, per quote, this was probably the most emotional part of the scene. In not emotional but like in a good emotional way. I feel like, and you wrote the quote down, Mac. What was the quote that Din gives to Bo?
It says, "What means more to me is honor, loyalty, and character. Your song is not yet written, and I will serve you until it is."
Man, if there had been a I love you, I know kind of moment in The Mandalorian, like we have in, The Empire Strikes Back, to me, that was it. Because I mean, he doesn't know how to express those feelings. I mean, he's never even gotten to be in love or be with somebody like that. To me, in my mind, this was Din's way of saying, like, damn, girl, if I could take off this helmet and kiss you right now, I would. And I almost wish they would, because it's driving me nuts.
I mean, he did everything except get down on one knee. Let's be honest.
He did. I mean, he pledged his life to her right there, right? He pledged his life to her. What's
up, brother?
What's up, G? Yeah, in my mind, that was the moment that I was like, all right, okay, they are going to have something more to the two of them throughout this series. I feel like whatever happens is going, because I believe, Theo, you were one of the first people to bring it up to me. Like, when a Mandalorian marries, he is able to take off his helmet, at least with his spouse and things of that nature, when they're around each other. And that would give Din his scenes of not always being, underneath the dome. Yeah, I love that scene. I liked it a lot. I believe she needed the opportunity to really also vent as well about why she gave up the Darksaber. We had never heard that revelation before. She surrendered. Right. She surrendered, and Gideon betrayed her and then just laid waste to the entire planet. That was something we hadn't known before. I thought she was defeated in battle and ran. And that's when Din comes and just like, hey, we were told all of you guys. It. Yeah. I thought he stole it, but he also, like, nobody cared what the hell this thing was. This thing only mattered to, your people. We didn't give a shit about this piece of plastic before, this piece of metal before it came into my possession. But them following her after this redemptive arc, this to me is all about Bo's redemptive arc right now. This season isn't just about Din. This is about the people, the Mandalorian people, and the impact they're going to be able to have in Star Wars after this. Because if we do have Thrawn, if Thrawn does show his ass in this series before Ahsoka, damn, whoever's going to see him is going to feel some wrath. Because, I mean, and I'm hoping it's not the Mandalorian people, because if it is, they gone. This group ain't enough to survive. This group isn't, they are not organized, let alone ready for what these guys may be. I feel like this season has to establish the Mandalorian people to be something of significance in the Star Wars universe going forward, in my opinion.
Right.
So, moving on, we run into a giant animal. Did anybody find out what that giant freaking dinosaur was either? Did anybody know what the hell that was? We know it wasn't a mythosaur. It didn't have the
first I thought it was the mythosaur, and then I'm like, yeah, that thing's way bigger than a mythosaur.
No, that's still smaller than what the mythosaur is supposed to be. That thing's still smaller than what a mythosaur is supposed to be.
It's not smaller than it, then they're definitely the same size. Like the mythosaur is supposed to be hulking, bro.
Yeah, the mythosaur is supposed to be the biggest creature on Mandalore, right? The biggest by far, by like leaps and bounds.
Predator.
Yeah, they were the ones that ate all those little fuckers that were hidden under the rocks right there. So to me, that was just like, that was like the warm up. I feel like I kind of wonder, man. I kind of wonder, are we going to get a mythosaur in this last episode? And there was the Lego leak of the Mandalorian Fang versus the TIE Interceptors. So we know that space battle is coming in this next episode, faux show. That's definitely happening.
Not to skip all the way to the end, because I'm sure we'll talk more about what happens in between. But I almost thought that's what was going to happen at the end of this episode.
Dude.
Oh, you thought the space fight was going to start?
No, I thought what Mikey says right here. What if they go Walking Dead and have Thrawn kill Din in front of everyone? Except I thought they were just going to do that with who's the main general in this?
Moff Gideon.
Yeah, with Moff Gideon. I thought that's what was going to go down.
Well, bro,
I kind of wish it did. Just saying, Grogu seeing that, everybody seeing that, it would have been like, it would have been like this got real.
But the base would have exploded, bro. The base would have been like, if you think people were mad from this episode before, you kill the masculine character, everybody would be like, oh. But no, it would have been cool because that definitely Gideon.
It would have added some serious depth to this show.
It had all the vibes of Walking Dead right there. It had all that vibe, and maybe that's the reason why they didn't. They were just like, we're telling this enough. Let's let it go. I don't think we're going to lose Din. I think that would be the biggest mistake.
I don't either. If we did it right there in that scene, he's good.
So check this out, guys. I don't know, other than them showing episode 7, this past episode, they showed it early at Star Wars Celebration. So some people already knew about this episode, but I've had 3 or 4 different people who were at Celebration reach out to me through Instagram and tell me that they've heard while they were at Celebration that episode 8, the finale episode next week, is going to be super controversial. Potentially the most controversial TV episode of Star Wars so far.
So Grogu is going to get killed.
Yikes. Yikes. What a way to piss off every female Star Wars fan, bro.
How do you top that controversial?
Well, it's at the same time, too, Bo is in a redemptive arc, in a very redemptive arc, right? Where honestly, her sacrifice for her people might be the one thing that really unites them in truth, right? Like she's led both, and she's doing it right now, and she's doing her best. But sometimes it's the martyring of a character that really gets the people to work. In my mind, I need some kind of little happy ending. I need some kind of, and if I see if Din bites it as well, or if Bo bites it, or Grogu, if anything happens to either of those 3, I'm gonna be pissed. However, there are 2 big things we still have to cover in this episode.
I was when Glenn got killed, but I still kept watching it.
Yeah.
That was the
Glenn
series
still
wasn't for a bunch of people, though, dude.
Glenn was to Walking Dead as Paz is to the Mandalorian, right? In character, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
So
Din is like Rick. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So let's jump to the end so we can get to some theories before we jump. The big ending. They encounter after the monster rears its head. They make it down. They get down. They run into our new Mando Commando Beskar wearing badass Imperial Super Commando version 2.0s flying in. laying waste. They fight back, and during this time, and two things we should mention too: the sick Mandalorians pirates get taken back by the armorer. Number one, the armorer takes back the sick and injured Mandalorians to the fleet. Number two, during that ambush from those Imperial commandos, Axe gets out through the top after being laid cover by Paz to go get more help because they know they need help. They'll never survive this assault if they don't. And as they're running through, I don't know why they didn't notice, because I know I sure as shit did the very second I saw the Imperial lighting and all of a sudden the braces running throughout the cave system that they were running through. They're running into an Imperial base. And all of a sudden, hey guys, look, we're in an Imperial base. I mean, was this Moff Gideon's reason for basically telling the Mandalorians all this time the planet was poisoned, keeping that entire mindset and information out there? And the real reason why any Mandalorian that went underground never returned was because Moff Gideon was there all along.
Absolutely.
It looks like this has always been his stronghold.
Yeah.
Well, we realize at the end too, I mean, and he's smart. He's taking like the greatest strength from each era, the clones, the Jedi, the Mandalorian Beskar armor. You see him rolling up, you're just like, whoa, dude, look at all these dudes. They're all in armor.
And he's looking like Maul.
Yeah, they all look fucking souped up. Everyone's shooting at him. They're just like bouncing off. They're like
he looks like Darth Maul. He rolls in. So they drop the door. It is a trap. They trap the Mandalorians, and there's 3 or 4 Mandalorians stuck out there with Din. Din gets caught. He gets carried off, and Gideon's like, all right, surrender or die. Bo says no, we're not going to surrender. And she runs to the back with the Darksaber. Now, I've heard a lot of conversation that why didn't Bo use the Darksaber ahead of time? Why didn't Bo try and cut a hole in the wall of the Darksaber earlier, out facing where Gideon was? Okay, right. So in my mind, right off the bat, it would have been a major choke point. Anybody that's played anything or any kind of military, game, you know, you get a room so big, you get a hole so large, only one person or two can even fit through it at a time. Bodies are just going to double up because you only have to aim at one spot. That choke point's going to get hammered. So that didn't make sense. And at the same time, too, we all saw how long it took her to cut that hole in the back. I mean, you think they wouldn't have noticed? The giant lightsaber coming through the wall, like, well, she's almost done, guys. Well, is Din out yet? Yeah, Din's out. To me, it didn't make sense for her to try and do that. I don't think it would have worked. I mean, the E for effort might have felt good. Like, we're going to try and come, but no, it didn't work. Grogu didn't do anything. I feel like Grogu forgot his entire Jedi training. In that one very moment, which was a little disappointing. Because, I mean, you could see the concern on his face. And I'm just sitting here going, like, where the hell, dude? Like, I know you've got this raw power. We've seen it before where you shook a city. Yeah, we've seen him like make an entire city shake in season 2, and then all of a sudden, he's just like, there goes Dad.
The thing that I was honestly,
it's almost like he was in shock.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
The thing that I thought he should have done, and what popped into my mind immediately, was the last time he saw someone aggressing his dad was when Cara Dune and he were having like the arm wrestling match, and he choked her. So I was like, why the hell isn't he like reaching through that door and choking Moff Gideon?
Yeah. I was a little disappointed in that in retrospect, but in the moment, it was the moment. I was enjoying the episode, and we finally get Paz Vizsla, who has been, a pain in the ass for 2 seasons, off and on, but he's just taking care of his covert, his family. I get it. But man, he comes out. He comes out, and I love the part. There's too many of them, and he kills them all by himself. Like, I don't have time to retreat. I'm gonna kill every single one of these, and he does. He lays waste. Yeah. He lays waste.
He even does hand to hand a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the what's it called? It's the Imperial Guards. Is that what they're called? The guys in red?
Those were the
the Praetorian Guards.
Oh, the Praetorian Guards come out.
Praetorian Guards.
It's the Praetorian Guards.
And I think they were wielding the same weapon that we were talking about earlier that goes up against a lightsaber, which is how they were able to all stab right through him.
Right. Yeah.
They were going right in the points in between the Beskar, right?
Yeah.
You saw it in the side, you saw it in his shoulder, you saw it on the back of his calf, and that's where we get into the sacrifice of Paz. Paz sacrifices himself to save the rest of what's left of the
I'm a little
Mandalorian
upset with
people.
Bo-Katan. I don't know. She cut that hole in the other door. He says, "Leave. I got this." She says no and runs away. I'm like, well, he's killing everybody. Why couldn't you cut a hole right there? And then
At the same time, too, that goes to the whole
when he ran
side
out
of
of his
things.
guns and killed all those dudes, I don't know. I mean, I get it. You don't want to be a coward, but I mean, John Wick runs away from fights. He comes back and kills everybody. Yo, I see those red dudes show up. I'm out of guns, and I just killed it, bro. He still has a jetpack on. Why didn't you just book it? They don't got jetpacks.
So the only thing about the jetpacks is in that scene, because I've watched this episode like 3 different times, and specifically that fight scene, is there the whole like belt or whatever that feeds his gun comes from his jetpack, and it looked like after he had used all the energy or whatever out of his gun and it basically killed it and he threw it away. When he was kind of like walking around and like combating, hand to hand and all that, his jetpack was straight just like smoking. So I don't know if he could have like flown away. I think he was out of juice.
I mean, I get it, but
I feel like
can barrel roll across the ground, pick up one of the down dude's blasters. Something.
I feel like there was options.
Like you said, the dude
his sacrifice.
Everybody. You know how many guns were laying on the ground?
He did lay waste, and that was good though too. I mean, we at least got to see him go out, and I'm hoping. And the only reason why I'm saying this though too is because I don't want any of my main characters to die. I want him to be the most main character that dies this season. Okay, I can't take a main. I can't take a Din. I can't take a Bowen. I can't take a Grogu. Anybody else needs to die, whatever. I'll deal with it. But if any of those 3 bite it, I mean, a cliffhanger is one thing, but if they die, I will have a problem with Star Wars for a while, because at the end of the day, those are the 3 characters that have kind of brought me back, especially this season. And I know a lot of people, Bo wasn't a major part of the season, but we knew she was going to be a part of it with the Mandalorian people. For those that are actually watching Star Wars for years,
son finds out. We're gonna have a little Boba Fett watch.
Like when Ragnar finds out about his dad dying, like
wait till his son finds out.
Yeah,
that's what I'm like. Ooh, he's gonna have some rage.
The Death Watch is back.
So check this out. Yeah. So of all of so at the beginning of this, we talked about how the title of the episode is The Spies.
Yes.
Elia Kane is clearly a spy. But if you guys, I want to hear you guys sound off in the comments, but obviously I want to hear you two go ahead and tell me right now if it's Axe Woves, the Armorer, or the Pirate Mandos that we meet on Mandalore. Who is most likely the second spy?
I think it's the girl, the right hand to the pirate main dude. You know what I'm talking about? The chick that he's always like looking at, the chick with always like the weird evil eye almost. That's just
the girl that was with Bo-Katan in the first season.
Yep. I think it's her.
Dang. So you think it's Casca Reeves? Okay.
Casca Reeves. I know a lot of people think it's the Armorer. I don't think that makes sense in my opinion. I only say that because because it was her idea to bring the Mandalorian people in a way together, not necessarily to go to deliver them to Gideon, but it was Gideon who said, I never want these people together. Whatever you do, keep these people warring, right? He's like, they can't be together. They can't do this. The only one that wouldn't have known about the goal of getting to Mandalore is Axe, and possibly, just like Theo said, those two. Is anybody in that the old Night Owls, outfit that in my mind could be? But that means most of the entire fleet up there is traitorous, right?
Right.
That means it could be, right? So I mean, then why is there even going to be potentially a battle? I think it's Axe. I think Axe is it because it was so easy for him to get a way out. He was just like, I'll go get help. Like the troopers would know not to shoot him. And everybody's like, no, you'll die. There's like, oh, there's gotta be a way. Like they would find a hole. because he was just trying to find a way to get the fuck out of that fight to begin with, because he knew, all right, this is where it's going to happen. This is what's going to be. I got to get out of here. I told them we're coming. We're coming.
Right.
That to me is why it felt like Axe. And also because too, you know, he said we're as honorable as, you know, the person paying the bill. And, you know, he said it on numerous occasions, like, oh, I'm sorry, we are mercenaries. We go where the money is. Right. We are as honorable as the person paying the bills. Right. Now,
I almost feel like it's too easy to call him the spy. That's why it's not him.
Well,
it's always the person you don't assume.
So I'll back you up kind of with what Phil's talking about of it could very well be Casca, because in the previous episode, in the Jack Black Lizzo episode, you know, at the very beginning, it has like the Quarren and Mon Calamari people and like that whole like little love affair thing. And they go on the ship to go get the prince and everything and bring him back. And, you know, he says to Casca as she's like coming to get him to take him back, he's like, I thought you Mandalorians were honorable. And she herself said, we're, you know, only as honorable as like a few credits will buy, kind of like what Phil was saying. So I could easily see it being Casca now that you point that out.
And I do want to still point out to that same group though, Axe Woves and Casca, right? So the armorer knew, you know, that Din was, you know, going to go back to Mandalore, but she had no idea he was going to go even look for anything from Bo. She had no idea he was going to look for anything from Bo. But what happened when Bo was known to be alone only by those two people, by Axe and by Casca, right? What happens to her in her castle? Bombed the fuck out of by Gideon's people, you know. So to me, it's definitely not the armor. I feel like the armor is a red herring of, you know, just camera play and getting to look at this person and all of a sudden, we made you think it was her, but it's really not because it's these people. I feel like they leaked where she was and they were going to finish her off. And unfortunately, they realized, shit, she's in a ship. She's not here right now. You know, and all the bad things are happening afterwards. You know, to me, it's definitely not the armor. It could be either of those two. And I think Casca is a good call, Theo. She has been with her since the beginning of season 2 when we first started to run into her again, and she saves Grogu and she saves Din. I mean, this woman's been saving Din's ass for a while now. This is like the 4th or 5th time, but in this case, it sounds like Din's in trouble. Din's in trouble, and I don't know where it's going to go. But what do you guys see for this final episode? What's your theory, or what do you have to see in this final episode?
I have to see Grogu using the Force. That's number one, I think. I need to see him kind of take that next step.
Do you think that next step is taming a mythosaur?
Jeez. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, that's a next leap.
Well, that's a Force thing, though. That's a Force thing. I mean, we saw Ahsoka do it to that cat when she was a toddler. This is something that's kind of innate with the Force. They can understand animals. That's like one of the first things of the Force that you get, right? So maybe that's not impossible to me. In my mind, that's probably
that would be
more
pretty freaking epic.
Because he did it to the Rancor too in the Book of Boba Fett. Remember, the Rancor was going buck wild.
I kind of want to see him pull like a Magneto, if I'm being honest.
Okay. So you want to see him go like
blasters. And then you just see them turn around. He just goes, and just kills everybody. I mean, I'd like to see him just kind of go fucking Super Saiyan real quick.
That would be pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, right?
I'm not saying I don't want to see it
in this final scene. If I'm being honest,
what, like you said, he was maybe in shock, hopefully, but who knows? Who knows?
Right?
I don't know.
So I think what I would really like to see from this last episode would be, you mentioned that there's going to be some sort of space battle, or they're going to kind of have the whole like interceptor deal and all that. And like, I'm cool with space battles. I've never been as crazy about space battles as some other Star Wars fans are, but how cool would it be if like in space, they're not quite, I mean, Mandalorians are really good pilots, but let's say that they start to kind of get put on the back heel and they're like, okay, like let's go back down on Mandalore, da 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 da. And Bo-Katan disappears for a little while, and then she does reemerge with like a tamed mythosaur that turns the tides for the Mandos.
I can see it. For me,
I just want to see the mythosaur being tamed before the end of the season, bro.
What I see happening is I see things getting very, very troubling. Everybody's losing. We're losing in space and we're losing on the ground. And I see a mythosaur getting tamed, and I see Grogu doing it. And I see Grogu even possibly touching the Darksaber. I don't know what's going to happen to Din. I don't know what's going to happen to Bo, but I feel like that's the only reason why they would have put him in this bodysuit, is so he could do something that involves a larger body. And the only thing that he can't do is wield a lightsaber from that body. That's the only thing he can't do. So to me, putting him in this suit is like something to be able to be like, with his little robotic hand, holds it up, turns on, and some shit happens. So that's one. I feel like two, we saw Zeb earlier in this season, and I feel like Zeb is going to talk to Ahsoka about some of the things that are going on outside. And I feel like while all this shit's happening, the Ghost is going to show up at the end of this episode, and is going to be one of the flanking characters to help bring all of the space battle under control. So hold on, my freaking thing's going crazy here.
And Ahsoka's basically going to have the Luke
Skywalker. That's my prediction.
Moment.
I mean, you know, it'd be kind of cool as if like Boba Fett, a bunch of his boys,
Facts.
Luke, everybody just shows up real quick, you know?
Has kind of like an in-game moment.
Well, it's like he did it for him in the Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
It would only make sense if Boba
could use some redemption after that shit show of a series. Boba could use some redemption after that shit show of a series.
It's almost like, oh, Boba Fett made The Mandalorian a better show at the end, like Mando did it for him.
Maybe. Yeah. That would be good.
That's honestly what I would really like to see, now that I'm thinking about it.
I would like to see Boba make an appearance. I feel like we need something though that's going to make everybody be like, "Oh my god, I have to see Ahsoka now." Right? I feel like I need something. I don't see anything yet that ties us to needing to see Ahsoka, other than Thrawn possibly arriving, which I think it would be too early. I don't think he should arrive yet. I think that if this is Star Wars as Thanos, and Disney has said this. Disney has said Star Wars needs a Thanos. And it's not Palpatine. Star Wars needs a Thanos, and that's only Thrawn.
Whoa!
Right?
Whoa,
so this is going to be a 5-6 year in the making.
Will always be Star Wars as Thanos.
Who?
Dang,
Darth Vader.
Who? Darth Vader. Well, yeah, but we can't fight him anymore. We need one we can fight.
But just he'll always.
We need one we can fight.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, this guy becomes a good guy at the end. Thanos never redeemed. So. In my mind, though, we need a bad guy who's just always going to be bad and seems to always be a step ahead, and that's Thrawn. And we know that Thrawn movie is 5-6 years away, so we're going to have a lot of losses on our hands. And I do feel like if we were to have him show up at the end of this episode, it would be too much. I feel like we need to get like some hope that there's going to be a win at some point, and then they start getting smacked down. And I feel like that happens in Ahsoka. So for me, I feel like Boba could show up. I just don't feel like Thrawn's going to reveal himself in this episode. Maybe we'll catch it in like an after scene kind of thing, but I feel like Boba could show up. I feel like the Ghost could show up. And if either of those two things show up, I'm geeked. Or a rebel incursion, right? Maybe finally a reason for understanding that we saw Jack Black and Lizzo's character in this last episode. Maybe they do appeal to the Republic. Maybe this conversation is like, hey, we should be recognizing the people of Mandalore. They saved our people. They saved our city. And then all this stuff's kind of coming to fruition with that other pilot that used to be on Kim's Convenience. And that conversation with Zeb gets back to some rebels. And we get a little bit of a rebel fleet coming in to be like, we heard something's going on. We've heard rumblings, whatever the hell it is, jumps out there with the Ghost. And or a Boba Fett, maybe Boba Fett's helping on the ground kind of situation, right? With the Mandalorian people, and up in space, we get a little bit of a rebellion and Ghost coming in. That would be the culmination of all three. And that's what they want to happen. They want the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, the Mandalorian, and Skeleton Crew to all culminate this Filoni-verse, this Mando-verse in that Mandalorian movie. that Heir to the Empire movie for Filoni, this would be a way to start having them cross over. Yeah. I'd be down with that. I would love that. Yeah. If we get any variations of that, great. Will you guys be disappointed if we do not? I will. I won't lie. I won't lie.
Didn't we just get confirmation that Rey is coming back?
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't know when or in what fashion.
In a movie, she's setting up the new Jedi, the new Jedi training facility and stuff like that. She's taking where the Del Rey books had Luke at first, before he quit his Jedi Temple run, essentially 15 years after the battle and Palpatine dies and the revelation of sorts, right? So that's the information we know right now.
Any tie into this?
Not yet, no. Right. We do know Filoni wanted to make these shows and movies take us to the New Order, right? This is the time, this is the 30 years in between that he gets to play with. So he's trying to Clone Wars it, right? He's taking the Clone Wars aspect where I'm going to build on the stuff we later see in the movies. But from what I'm hearing, some of that also is going to be nerfing some of the things that we saw in the movies. Some of that's going to be retconning some of the things we saw in the movies, and not like the whole movies whatsoever, but like some of it through the world between worlds that we saw a lot of in Rebels, a little bit of in Clone Wars. And that's a big Filoni thing. And that's basically the Avengers equivalent of time travel, right? This is the whatever it was, the quantum realm, right? This is the world between worlds of the Force as far as things go. And this is where they reclaimed Ahsoka from, right? Ahsoka dies. Right. And this is where they brought her back from. This is where Ezra gets her back from. So I think, I don't know, man. There's this last episode, but there's a lot that's got to happen. We got to find out what the hell's happening to Din. Who is the other traitor? Man, if this episode is anything less than an hour, I'm gonna be pissed.
Facts. It does need to be a fat M.
Somebody kind of needs to die.
Somebody probably.
I mean, they already kind of set it up, you know. It's like,
to me, I think if we're setting it up, if we need a martyr, it's gonna be Bo. But in the world between worlds, that might be though too, because this is the only thing that gets my goat, is that we do know that Disney bought into perpetuity Kate Sackhoff's voice to use for Star Wars content into perpetuity, forever. Beyond her death, she sold her voice to Disney, and she is one of the only people to sign any contract like that. So that being the case, we know she signed long term. Are they going to kill her? Probably not. Maybe they'll kill her for a season or two, and in the world between worlds, we'll get her back somehow, like we did Ahsoka technically in Rebels. Maybe, but in my mind, we know what's his name. Din is not signed beyond this year yet. There has been no announcement of that, and we know he is not happy. We know he did not go to Star Wars Celebration. We know he wants to get his helmet off. We know Favreau does not want him to get his helmet off, and he's feeling interference from Kathleen
let's be honest,
Kennedy.
Anybody can play that role.
That's just it. Anybody can play that role. Do they have to kill him? And I don't think they do. And that's probably the best news of all of this character. Like, okay, he decides to go. That sucks. Good news is he was just doing voiceover work. Good news is I have a voice modulator from my freaking Mando helmet that if I wanted to, I could sound like Din Djarin. All right. So it's not going to be hard for them just to put another voice in there. Sure, the face would look different when they have reveals, but if they don't want to, then all of a sudden they don't have to worry about it. This guy's just an actor.
Okay,
stunt double.
Lou, we talked about that earlier, Lou, but we don't think so.
No. Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, it's always a possibility, but
Gabriel, I agree with you. It better be just as good or better.
I think it would be better if Boba or the Ghost showed up. If either of those two, because Luke can't show up again. If they do Luke again, it's fan service, and everybody will can't be Luke again. Luke can't keep saving everybody. We got to get somebody else.
To be honest,
right? So,
if the Jedi is going to show up, it should be Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Teeing up.
So, because Bo-Katan has taken on more of a maternal role with Grogu, what if they really do kill Din, and then Bo-Katan, basically Grogu is Bo's foundling now?
I don't see it. I mean, I get it.
I'm throwing that out there because I don't know why.
It.
I just kind of got this feeling just now of like, I don't know.
If they really are going to kill somebody, and they can always too, like we said before, like we were saying for Bo, they could whirl between worlds it, and they can get him back. Maybe this is one of the things that they try and fix with like the other sequel trilogy that came out, and the things they want to change, like possibly making Rey part Kenobi as well, and things of that nature. I mean, we'll see. But in my mind, I'm interested, but I'm maybe nobody is going to die. It is possible. Maybe Paz is the big death. But we do know that we need to find out who the other spy is still. And we don't know that yet. And that's my big concern. And that's why I feel like that's the only issue I have with it being Axe or...
Watch Jack Black.
Well, he was playing a very straight character, and he was playing... And we heard, too, how... what's his name? Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd he's slimy, he's terrible, he's bad, he's the worst. I'm saying. You guys don't know how terrible he is. That to me is just like, well, Jack Black's coming back. Like we might not see Lizzo again, but we're definitely going to see some more Jack Black because there's definitely more to him than meets the eye. I could see him as an Imperial warlord of sorts. But I don't know. Maybe he's going to be, maybe he is good. Maybe he isn't good. We'll find out. But I hope he's not the reveal. He better not be the reveal. I don't want to see him again this season. I'm okay with him like revealing like, oh, he was bad. We did know you that one time we did you a favor. But I do feel like we need Boba or Ahsoka. And I just say Ahsoka with the ghost. So it makes sense. Because we saw Zeb. That was Zeb. Confirmed Zeb. So,
absolutely,
we could use more than just a cameo to know why we have to pay attention. Why does Ahsoka matter to the Mandalorian? It doesn't make any better sense for her to show up and help out. And like Theo said too, Jedi help, it can't be Luke. It has to be Ahsoka. It has to be Ahsoka.
Better not be Luke.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if it is Luke, I'm going to be disappointed. Oh, but good season so far. I am one of the outliers. I do feel like, and I feel like all three of us have said this on numerous occasions though too. We've actually enjoyed this season. I know there's been some people who are just like they hate it, and I get that. But I've definitely had some moments that were cooler than others. But I remember the first season of The Mandalorian, and I remember him having to like walk around with just basic. I don't know. I've seen other episodes that were boring as hell at different seasons and different times for plot points or what they were trying to build to, as far as some people be concerned. So I think that this season is better than the first season.
I can agree with that. I think prior episodes were a little on the slower side.
Yeah.
This season so far it's just been like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. I've felt intense. I felt like storytelling and world building the entire season so far. So I'm good with that. There's a question in here from Cameron and Gabriel. Would rather see Hera than Ahsoka. That'd be cool. But Ezra can't really show up. He's still trapped in this unknown regions with Thrawn. The reason why Thrawn's not here yet is because Ezra's with him, with the Purgle taking him off. Right, Mac?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What is this area too? It's not even the unknown regions. It's something entirely different. The Beyond or something they called it.
Yeah, it's called the New Beyond, I believe, is what it's been rumored to be called. And that's kind of like an area even beyond the Outer Rim where the Force doesn't even operate under the same standards.
Isn't that where Palpatine was in the last Star Wars movie?
He was just in the unknown regions, which is like it's a known area of space, but an uncharted area of space.
They kind of took notes from the Great Maw in the Del Rey books of like these black holes and star systems all in this big cluster of hard to navigate through to in places. And that's where Palpatine was. That's where in the books they had like the Sun Crusher and all this other stuff that was built to do other things, an Imperial research facility. But it looks like in this case, that's what he used to make his ice legion of, this is where Hux is going to run to at the end of the battle of wherever the planet is that Rey's from.
Jakku.
Jakku, the Battle of Jakku. That's where Hux runs to and starts to build out this first order. Is that planet? So yeah, I mean, will we see little seeds and parts and pieces? I think so. But we're going to see them all falling under Thrawn's toe for a while. I got a feeling, and it's going to be showing up in these next 3 different seasons, and we're going to see those pirates. Those pirates are also a major part of this too. The pirates were working for the Imperials, and it was confirmed too, by the spy at the beginning. The pirates are working for them, and we know Skeleton Crew is 100% about the kids that witnessed the pirates doing something pretty sus. And we believe it has to do with the Force and things of that nature. And while running away from the pirates, Jude Law and kids and company make a jump to hyperspace, and it throws them into the unknown regions. And now, kind of like Star Trek Voyager, they got to find their way back to tell people about what the pirates are freaking doing. That's kind of the premise of Skeleton Crew. All of this is coming to Thrawn. So, shoot, I feel like this is the first episode where we saw, Thanos turn around and just kind of smile at the end. We might get one of those at the end of this series. But I don't feel like we're going to get a full appearance. This is going to be the cameo of Thrawn, not the full appearance.
So I just checked Wikipedia because for one of the only things I couldn't really think off the top of my brain was when the Battle of Jakku happened, and that happened in 5 ABY. So being the fact that this series takes place around 9 or 10 ABY, the Battle of Jakku has already happened.
Well, then where does Hux go? Oh, is that where Hux is now? Maybe then.
Probably.
So because Hux was in charge of the fleet that left. That's the one thing I know. He was in charge of the fleet that ran.
Him, and I really wish they would have shown her in the council, because I love the character she's not Grand Admiral. She's Vice Admiral Rey Sloane. That character is a bold character, and she
in
was
the comics, right?
Yeah, she was one of the inaugural members of the Shadow Council, but yet she didn't appear at the beginning of this episode when they showed the council. So kind of wondering where she's at.
So from what I've heard is we've got Amara Jade on the way in the form of Karen Gilland. We've got and this is all because like Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds and stuff like that, because she's going to be Thrawn's hand instead of Palpatine's. Okay. And we've got a lot of cool things on the way. I'm excited to see, but in my mind right now, if I don't see Boba and if I don't see Ahsoka with the Ghost, I don't know why we're supposed to watch Ahsoka.
Right.
So that would be the time, because we know from the Book of Boba Fett, we knew we were going to have to follow the Mandalorian. He came in and saved everybody. We don't know if Boba Fett the book of Boba Fett season 2 is official yet. From what I heard, it was possibly canceled, which is a big thing. And if that's the case, then these characters are going to have to move to another show. So Theo's theory might be very prevalent if that is true and they don't get the second of the series. Boba Fett may become a regular on The Mandalorian going forward. Or, somehow goes into the Filoniverse with Ahsoka. So,
and Boba takes the creed and becomes an official Mando.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. Sick.
All right, guys. So what's going on this week for anybody else before we wrap it up for the night? Because it is late, and I have some serious packing to do before Vegas tomorrow.
Don't forget to wash your hands. Not too much. Usual jazz,
Yeah. Any sales?
I'm shooting for one this weekend, but it really depends on how jacked up my time gets with the kiddos, so for sure I think I have one next weekend with Danielle.
Oh, cool. Nice. Girl. Mac, how about you, buddy? What do you got going on this week?
Regular final order cutoff post that I'm going to have out tomorrow on all kinds of new books that are going to come out the second or third week in May. So I can't stress that enough. If you're like a new comic person, Obviously, you're probably not getting books through me, but if you want to, like, I'm here. I'm an online comic shop. But even for your LCS, like, there's nothing that I can personally say that I love more than like when my subscribers come to me and let me know well in advance when there's a book they want to get. So whether you're looking at, shout out to our friend Lefteros, he does a really good FOC post. I do. I feel like a fairly good FOC.
Spider-Man 7s do you have?
Yeah, I don't have any personally. But
what?
Yeah, dude. Like, I wasn't super behind that. But I fell off that series about issue 3 or 4. But yeah, gonna put that out. And then I've got, based on this past weekend, revealing so many things about the High Republic and Star Wars Celebration and all that. I've got a theory video, or kind of just like a book, a hot book that I think people should be picking up ahead of Phase 3 starting either at the end of this year or the beginning of 2024. I know that's still a ways off, but Phase 2 of the High Republic is coming to a close, which means Phase 3 will start soon after that. And when Phase 3 starts, a lot of the Phase 3 content is going to be connected to Phase 1, because much like the movie trilogies, being that we started with the original trilogy technically in the middle of the story with 4, 5, and 6, and then going to the prequels, and then jumping way forward again with the sequels, is this the same deal with the High Republic? So Phase 1 was the middle chunk of the story. Phase 2 that we're experiencing now is the very beginning, or the earliest chronologically in the story. And then with Phase 3 that's going to come here soon, it's going to be very connected in with Phase 1. So I've kind of got some theories and some books that you might need to pick up, that I'll put out some content either Saturday or Sunday on that.
And these will be very connective to the Acolyte too, honestly.
For sure.
I feel like, and that would
Quick
be a
question,
good reason
Mac. If you could pick one Star Wars book to have in your PC, what would it be?
Comic book?
Comic book.
Yeah.
One Star Wars book. I'm talking like, what do you think? Basically, it's like, what is the most important Star Wars book, in your opinion? I'm curious.
That's a tough one to just nail it down to one. But if I really had to, I would say that it would be from Phase 1, Star Wars High Republic Adventures Issue 2. Because at the end of Issue 1, it shows a cameo of Marchion Ro, which is the main bad guy of Phase 1 and what it sounds like to be Phase 3 of the High Republic. And he actually defeats the Jedi at the end of Phase 1 and kind of has them in shambles. They're not altogether defeated. Obviously, we have Jedi by the time of the prequels and the originals and all that sort of thing. But he absolutely has the upper hand on them. And something that translates across, your love of Lord of the Rings, of Star Wars, of Harry Potter, of just any and every IP, fantasy IP, the villains always get mad love. And so if you're going to put your money behind one single book, I would say go out and buy as many graded and ungraded copies of Star Wars High Republic Adventures Issue 2. It's more of the kiddie title, but Issue 2 has the first full appearance of Marchion Ro, and that should be a safe investment.
That's kind of like the Loki.
There you go, guys.
The Loki. I dig it. Yeah, man. That's a good call. I'm interested to see where it goes. So let's say next week. And guys, this is something Mikey proposed to me, and I'm gonna propose it to you because I'm actually willing to do this. We host a live watch party for the last episode of The Mandalorian.
Hell yeah.
On Wednesday next week.
Midnight,
1 a.m. But Mac, for you, that would be 3.
Dude, I can do it. I'm my own boss. I make my own schedule. So
I guess for you, Phil, it's 2.
No, it's because I'm going to be in Las Vegas still.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got all the time zones.
All right, let's do it. I'm down.
Spicy sons of it.
I'll be done wrapping packages.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, check this out. So where are we at on the subscriber count?
We're at 909.
909. Okay. We just crossed that bridge.
So if there's anybody in here, I don't know if was this episode or is this episode being done on IG too, or did you kind of throw that out the window?
No, this is just 100% right now on YouTube. But I'll make a promo for if we are all three in, I'll make a video in the next 24 hours about us doing a live watch party, and it will be dropped every day for the next few days because honestly, I don't know anybody else in our IG community that does watch parties that isn't like, these giant, super huge accounts. This could be fun. Yeah. We can maybe even bring in some special guests. We can bring in some friends that might want to join us too. There's other Star Wars guys out there in the universe.
Absolutely. That'd be rad. The reason I ask about the subscriber count is if there are any of you in the audience that still haven't subbed up to Comics and Chaos, please do. If you need an incentive, I said last video that if we can get to 1,000 by next week, when the Mando season finale drops, then my shop will give away all 8 issues of season 1 comic adaptation of The Mandalorian.
Man, so, that's nice. There's a lot of keys in there.
Completely free cost. I'll pay shipping and everything.
Man, thank you so much for that, brother. I think we've got a chance. I think we should. I think I'll make sure that we start pumping out some material this week. Theo and I have the regular show on Sunday, which Theo, before we depart, we're going to kind of do something that we really had a lot of fun with this last weekend, right?
With the open mic?
Yeah. We have a few extra friends join us. I mean, we're going to have some other people predetermined will be hanging out with us too, but we're going to try and give the opportunity for some extra people to jump in because that went really well last week. That was a lot of fun. I loved it. So
I had a great time. We had to force ourselves to get off. Honestly, I think
it was that was like our longest episode since our first one.
Dude, y'all make me hate that I missed it.
It was a good time, buddy. Make sure you can try and join us, but it'll be Sunday. It'll be 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We will roll another episode. There will be some other guests automatically in for the rest of the episode, but we definitely are going to start to try and rotate in some more fun friends because that was an amazing experience. We had a lot of first appearances. It was a key episode, folks. It was a key episode. Comics and Chaos Keys. Honestly, that should be like an actual segment. Comics and Chaos Keys, first appearances of all these different people. But yeah, in the meantime, I'll see you guys in Vegas for anybody that's looking for me. If you're out that way, Blue Lantern, have something to eat, can have a drink. I know I'm going to go try and check out Torpedo, see some of the friends at Into the West. I'm going to go catch up with my cosplay collab friend, Lucifer. And we're going to have a nice time out in Vegas for the next week. And I'm going to be working a lot too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time.
Awesome. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and sub it up, right? I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that said, guys, take care, everybody.
Peace.